What is up, guys? Welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if it's your first time here. We are back with the next episode of the It Ends With Us, Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni situation explained. Now, before we get into it, I have a massive migraine that's been going on for 2 days. I get them quite often, and it sucks. It really sucks. I got to a point now where I felt like I could actually stand up, so I'm seizing the opportunity. At last, we are getting into Justin Baldoni's lawsuit. We ended off in the last episode on Blake Lively's complaint, and now we are getting into Justin Baldoni's side of things. I just want us to get up to date because every day new information starts coming out, and it's an interesting case. It's very interesting, and the more that comes out, the more I feel like Blake Lively is actually an awful human being. I'm sorry. And I feel like the people commenting on my and other people's posts about this situation, who is all like Team Lively, I feel like either they haven't read the lawsuit and seen the evidence, or they are just bots, or it's the toxic feminist types that's just like, but she's a lady. As if horrible ladies don't exist. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm just here to tell you guys the facts about everything that happened, and then from there we can kind of go into our opinions and what we think about. Also, as you can see, the studio is coming along. Things are starting to happen. I have my beautiful shelving, and yeah, things are starting to happen, but there's still a lot that needs to be done, and I'm not sure how the sound is going to be. There's not a lot of soft furnishings in this room. This is going to be the art studio. So I'm going to do a lot of the art, crime, and mystery content here. So it might sound a little hollow. There's actually no soft furnishing in here. It's all hard surfaces. So I don't know how the sound is going to be. Also, as I said, I'm not feeling too great. So just ignore my face if it looks unflattering. I don't know what to tell you, but let's jump into the video, shall we? Remember to subscribe. Take a sip of coffee to give you time to subscribe. Alright, let's jump into Justin Baldoni's lawsuit. I'm just going to make space for myself. I did not switch off my phone because I don't know, maybe someone's going to look for me and it's going to be important. So Okie dokie, general allegations. The following is not a story the Wayfarer parties ever wished to tell. Unfortunately, Blake Lively has unequivocally left us with no choice. Not only to set the record straight in response to Lively's accusations and the New York Times maliciously and recklessly propagated falsehoods, but also to put the spotlight on the parts of Hollywood that they have dedicated their careers to being the antithesis of. That task was always going to be an uphill battle. They never imagined they would encounter it to this degree. Had Lively chosen to merely ride out the self-inflicted press catastrophe she faced in August of 2024, the public would likely have moved on and never have known the truth about her. They would have never known that she deliberately and systematically robbed the Wayfarer parties, Justin Baldoni and Wayfarer Studios, of their movie. No one except the parties involved would have known that she used threats and extortion to relegate the colleagues she once highly praised to the basement to sit out their own premiere, while she enjoyed the spotlight of a premiere and after party that was ultimately co-financed by both Wayfarer and Sony. She would have gotten away with all these things and more because Baldoni focused entirely on seeing the film succeed, would have held his tongue as he had as he had through the year and a half that Lively tormented him, his family, and his partners. But Lively could not tolerate her publicly tainted image for even a moment, and further could not accept that it was entirely of her own making. She needed a scapegoat, and rather than admit and take accountability for her own missteps, she chose to blame the Wayfarer parties in a malicious and unforgivably public manner. When she and when she and Reynolds could not force Baldoni and Wayfarer to read a statement she and her representatives prepared, extorting, extorting them extorting them to take accountability in defense of Lively's actions, she lay in wait for months preparing to publicly attack Baldoni by falsely claiming that he had sexually harassed her. The same falsified stories she had calculatingly devised and used throughout the production of the film in order to take control were now being used publicly to destroy Baldoni and the Wayfarer parties. Lively stole Wayfarer's movie, hijacked Wayfarer's premiere, destroyed the Wayfarer party's personal and professional reputations and livelihoods, and aimed to drive the Wayfarer parties out of business entirely. It further appears that Lively worked for months with the equally powerful New York Times to prepare a false and damaging narrative to deploy against the Wayfarer parties. Not surprisingly, Lively prepared an administrative complaint with the Civil Rights Department in California, the CRD complaint, in an attempt to use the litigation privilege to shield her behind-the-scenes conspiracy with the New York Times. But, upon information and belief, the CRD complaint was filed only after the Lively party spent months feeding falsehoods to the New York Times, intending that they be disseminated to damage the Wayfarer parties. Lively delivered the CRD complaint to Wayfarer parties over the Christmas holiday, and rather than promptly file a lawsuit, Lively, on information and belief, leaked the typically private CRD complaint to the public, utilizing the New York Times as a conduit for her revenge. The CRD complaint, and upon information and belief, the false information delivered to the New York Times before the CRD complaint was filed was rife with lies and doctored evidence. Lively then waited 11 days to file suit against the Wayfarer parties in what seemed to be a desperate move after the public questioned why she never filed a civil lawsuit. On information and belief, Lively never intended to file a civil lawsuit, which would have triggered the Wayfarer party's right to discovery, including obtaining evidence and deposing Lively under oath. By the time Lively actually filed the lawsuit against the Wayfarer parties, the damage to the Wayfarer parties was done by virtue of Lively's months of colluding with the New York Times on a false and malicious narrative unshielded by any privilege. Make no mistake, these actions were deliberate. The Wayfarer parties now have no choice but to fight back, armed only with the truth and the mountain of concrete evidence disproving Lively's allegations. Heartbreakingly, the film that Baldoni envisioned years ago would honor the survivors of DV by telling their stories, with the lofty goal of making a positive impact in the world, has now been overshadowed beyond recognition solely as a result of Lively's actions and cruelty. Lively wields immense power, and as one of the world's best-known celebrities, in 2024 she used that power to seize control of the film It Ends With Us, produced and co-financed by Wayfarer and directed by Baldoni, who also portrayed the lead role. She set out to destroy the Wayfarer party's livelihood and business if they did not bend to her incessant demands, and when they refused to give way, she did exactly that, accusing them of foul and reprehensible sexual misconduct. Wayfarer was blindsided when Lively, upon the inclusion of the industry strikes, refused to return to production absent the company agreeing to her non-negotiable protections for returns to production. That insinuated misconduct had occurred during filming, which as evidence will establish did not. Wayfarer was equally blindsided when Lively leveraged this document, essentially signed under duress to seize control of the film, ultimately getting her own cut of the film and a coveted PGA mark. At her command, ousting Baldoni from all marketing and promotional efforts, with many of the cast members and the author, all of whom he, until then, had long-standing positive relationships with. Lively's exclusion of Baldoni from the promotion of the film backfired, and she chose to callously promote her hair care and alcoholic beverage products rather than bringing attention to the survivors of DV, the entire premise of the film. Baldoni, now prohibited from attending events and taking photos with Lively and the cast, promoted the film as he has always intended, ever since he first began the process of making the film years ago. When Lively faced significant public backlash from what was often referred to as her tone-deaf and insensitive press tour for the film, she doubled down on her false and misleading accusations against Baldoni. She seemed determined to make Baldoni the real-life villain in her story. Her publicist, Leslie Sloan, went so far as to propagate malicious stories portraying Baldoni as a sexual predator, a term Lively's husband, Ryan Reynolds, also used to describe Baldoni when he called Baldoni's own agent. Modern society justly reviles sexual harassers and abusers, and Lively knew full well that making those allegations would be a career death sentence for the Wayfarer parties, especially given that Baldoni has lived his private and public life as an impassioned advocate for gender equality and healthy masculinity. She did not expect, however, that the Wayfarer parties would be able to meet those allegations with concrete documentary evidence disproving her claims and demonstrating that they, not Lively, were the targets of a calculated and vitriolic smear campaign. The evidence included in part herein is the basis for the Wayfarer party's claims against the Lively parties for extortion, defamation, and further wrongdoing. The film was the hotly anticipated adaptation of the worldwide best-selling book by Pauline Hoover and starring in it as Lily. Lively stood to enhance her already considerable star power. But she was not content to merely headline one of the year's biggest movies, instead apparently driven by overwhelming ambition and a need for control. Lively eventually leveraged her power as a wealthy celebrity to wrest the reins from her co-star and the film's director, Baldoni, insisting on total control over every aspect of the films she could get her hands on, from wardrobe to marketing strategy to music, even creating her own cut of the film. Not only did Lively's power play cost numerous people their jobs, but at every turn, her wrong-headed creative decisions reflected in her fundamental lack of understanding of what the book was about and the film was about. This came as no surprise to her worried colleagues, given that even well into production, Lively had not even read the book. Then they attach a screenshot from a text message from Baldoni to Heath on the 14th of September 2023. It's very sore on my headache to read, guys, not gonna lie, but we are pressing on. We shall persevere. Okay, the text message reads, after rereading the book, which had 150 pages to build their relationship, we have combined scenes to heighten the stakes for Ryle in pursuit of Lily, utilizing humor and his desire to sleep with her. While I understand Blake's reasons for not wanting to read the book does a very good job in getting in Lily's mind during her interactions with Ryle and setting up the why behind her attraction to him, which ultimately helps us understand why she stays at the end. I cannot understand why this is a discussion. If you want to play a character in a movie that's based on a book, you need to read the book. And throughout Blake Lively's claims, and the things she says and the choices she made, it is evident that she did not read the book. Let's move on. We'll go into all of those sorts of things and my thoughts later on in the series. Let's just get through. Lively's disastrous marketing efforts and her tone-deaf press interviews and appearances backfired and led to widespread criticism of Lively's promotional approach to the film's highly sensitive focus on TV. Past videos of Lively resurfaced online, videos that apparently solidified the public perception that Lively was the insensitive mean girl who cared more about peddling her products than acknowledging the DV survivor community. Social media commenters quickly pointed out that her tie-in of her alcohol beverages was in particularly poor taste, given that the World Health Organization estimates that 55% of DV incidents are linked to alcohol. Unbelievably, Lively made this harmful and irresponsible message worse by naming a drink at her premiere after-party, Ryle You Wait, after the character who committed the DV in the film. The suggestion that Wayfarer caused the online backlash against her is absurd given the evidence of her own insensitivity. Sadly, this backlash could have been avoided had she not refused to meet with the film's DV partner, nomore.org, as Baldoni had offered. Even a brief visit to their website or a simple online search would have readily uncovered this and other information on the topic of DV. Meanwhile, Baldoni, whom Lively herself had ensured was excluded from participating in her marketing efforts, was safeguarded from this backlash as he focused on amplifying the voices of those affected by DV. As originally intended when he reached out to Colleen Hoover 5 years earlier and documented by his partnership with nomore.org dating back to 2022. Baldoni's sincere efforts were well received, even more so in contrast with Lively's campaign to downplay the premise of the film and sell her hair care and alcohol products. Lively, enraged that her plans were foiled and armed with proof of alleged sexual harassment in the form of a 17-point list of demands she had required the Wayfarer parties to sign just months earlier, focused her rage on Baldoni, blaming him for the consequences of her own missteps. Meanwhile, Stephanie Jones, founder of Jones Works, Wayfarer and Baldoni's PR firm, was embroiled in a personal and professional crisis. Her increasingly erratic behavior had driven away not only high-profile clients but also her right-hand woman, Jennifer Abel, who oversaw the Jones Works Los Angeles office. Jones's behavior grew more and more bizarre, and she lashed out at loyal clients like Wayfarer in rage-filled rants and veered away from professional experience and strategy when making critical decisions affecting Jones Works clients. After a final outburst against Wayfarer, in which she outright refused to comply with direct instructions, Wayfarer had no choice but to cut ties with Jones and Jones Works, rather than leave their public image in the hands of what appeared to be an out-of-control Jones, whose actions were not aligned with Wayfarer and Baldoni's worldview and wishes. Jones was filled with impotent rage at Wayfarer and at Abel, who a month before had announced her decision to leave Jones Work and form her own company. Jones saw an opportunity for revenge and she took it. On information and belief, Jones, Lively, Reynolds, and Leslie Sloan, Lively's publicist, and others concocted a plan whereby Jones would seize Abel's phone and upon her departure and mine it for messages that, stripped out of context, could be used to concoct a false narrative that the disastrous press coverage of Lively's callous and opportunistic comments. This is now a whole long story. I'm just going to summarize the next bit for you because it's complicated. It has to do with PR teams. It goes to show, guys, don't believe anything you read in mainstream media. I am more prone to watch a million different YouTubers and TikTokers and then go through a lot of articles and make my own opinion based off that than I am to just blindly believe mainstream media because it's all PR. They all have an agenda. They can be bought. I don't trust them for a second, but whatever. So basically, what they're saying here, Stephanie Jones is the founder of Jones Works. That was Wayfarer and Justin Baldoni's PR team. Stephanie Jones does not have a great image. There's a lot of things about her, and she started to become more and more erratic, and she lost a lot of high-profile clients. And there's evidence further in this document where they would tell her, her clients would tell her to handle something in a way, and she would do the opposite. She just did her own thing, went on rants, and they were like, we can't work with you anymore. We can't trust you. So they fired this firm. About a month earlier, her right-hand woman, Jennifer Abel, quit. She was also hurtful of Stephanie Jones. She was like, I quit. I can't work with you anymore. I'm going to start my own firm. So what we learn later in the document through evidence is that Stephanie Jones then took her phone and said, we have the legal right to take your personal phone. And then they took all of the messages on her phone. And this was messages between a lot of clients, but specifically between Justin Baldoni and her, because they were her PR team. They were his PR team. And then that was the text messages that we saw in that New York Times article. But what we didn't know yet, which we see in this document, is that they cropped a lot of the text messages, took it out of context, left out emojis. If it was a text message this long, they would only post 2 sentences. And it completely changed the narrative of what happened. And what they say here in Justin's lawsuit is that they knew. They had all of the messages and they chose to just put certain portions into their lawsuit and in that article. And what they are also saying is that this was planned. This was planned a long time ago because on the 21st of August 2024, Sloan boasted to Nathan that she had seen her text and that Nathan would soon be sued. So what this is telling us is that Blake Lively and her PR person, her publicist, had access to that messages from August of 2024. And she filed her complaint in December of 2024 out of context. And they know that once the context is added, it paints a completely different picture. But they did not think that Justin would fight back. They did not think that he would file his lawsuit. She did not plan to file a lawsuit in the first place. She just wanted to file the complaint and do the smear campaign in the New York Times. It's she who did the smear campaign. Do the whole New York Times thing. Justin Baldoni's career is ruined, and now she won't have bad press anymore. She 100% planned that, allegedly, in my opinion. Let's move on. Okie dokie. They lively claimed Baldoni was the one smearing her. In reality, that it was that Lively and her team carefully planned and implemented a vile smear campaign against Baldoni and Wayfarer to deflect attention and blame for Lively's disastrous misjudgment. Lively would recast herself as the long-suffering martyr by portraying Baldoni and the Wayfarer party as her persecutors, the masterminds behind a smear campaign that evidence will show did not exist. Clone of Vision PR was all too willing to carry out this strategy, especially when armed with ammunition by Jones, who was bent on revenge against her ex-employee and former client. Shortly after the film's premiere and the public backlash against Lively, Lively, together with her husband Ryan Reynolds, demanded through their talent agency, which also represented Wayfair and Baldoni, that Wayfarer parties publicly apologize for so-called mistakes during production in order to deflect the avalanche of negative media coverage of Lively. Reynolds and Lively drafted a statement and demanded that Baldoni, Wayfarer and Heath issue that statement, requiring them to apologize to the public and fall on their sword, despite having done nothing wrong. Or else the gloves would come off. I cannot stand these people. And by these people, I mean Blake and Ryan. Once we get through this entire document, I don't think you will be able to stand them either, to be fair. Multiple WME executives acknowledged that in their experience, Lively and Reynolds' threats were not to be taken lightly. Though admitting to false, vague, and unspecified mistakes would be tantamount to admitting to career-ending misconduct. Baldoni, Wayfarer, and Heath refused to apologize for sins that they had never committed. They took a stand, knowing full well that Lively and Reynolds would bring the full might of their celebrity artillery. Oh, I can't say that word. They took a stand knowing full well that Lively and Reynolds would bring the full might of their celebrity artillery. Artillery. How do you say that word? Artillery. Artillery. English is a dumb language. I apologize. Against them. And that is precisely what happened. Lively, working with her husband and publicist Ann Jones, amongst others, set off on a campaign to tar and feather the Wayfarer parties in the press. They conspired and worked in concert with the New York Times to put a blockbuster They conspired and worked in concert with the New York Times to put out a blockbuster news report as devastating as it was false. They advanced a fabricated narrative in the press that the Wayfarer parties had sexually harassed Lively and then embarked on a calculated and malicious smear campaign to destroy her reputation as retaliation for daring to complain about the harassment. The Lively parties laid their trap carefully over a period of months before springing it all at once on the eve of the winter holidays. Just as plainly, they knew full well that their claims were entirely baseless because their own wrongfully obtained evidence proved that neither the alleged sexual harassment nor the accompanying smear campaign against Lively ever existed. Yet Lively moved forward with her plan with ruthless precision, doubling down in the face of abundant evidence casting doubt of her veracity of the story. Lively even went so far as to serve her lawsuit on the Los Angeles-based defendants as they were busy evacuating their homes in the midst of devastating wildfires. On the day when the Wayfarer parties were gathering, with their kids and pets preparing go bags and monitoring evacuation orders while fearing for their homes, Lively, from the safety of her penthouse in New York, deployed process. Service in the midst of these troubling times. bottom, this is not a case about celebrities sniping at each other in the press. This is a case about how two of the world's most powerful stars in the world deploying their enormous power to steal an entire film right out of the hands of its director and production studio. Then, when Lively and Reynolds' efforts failed to win them the acclaim that they believed they so richly deserved, they turned their fury on their chosen skyscraper, tolerating a year and a half of their behavior while remaining polite and professional at every turn offered Baldoni and Wayfarer no protection. By bringing this complaint, the Wayfarer parties commit themselves to seeking and proving the facts based not on insinuations built from selectively edited and context-free text snippets, but by putting all the evidence before the court and the public. When the Wayfarer parties have their day in court, the jury will recognize that even the most powerful celebrity cannot bend the truth to her will. Okay, so here we start out now with where Baldoni and Wayfarer purchased the rights to It Ends With Us. I think we're going to stop the video here, otherwise it's going to be too long. And then we'll continue with this in the next episode. Let me tell you guys, I went through this document. It's quite long because they actually came with receipts, but after going through it, I am properly mad. I'm like mad because it puts everybody in such a bad light. And especially for women, you know, I admire women with ambition, okay? I'm not like you need to sit down and be demure. No, women need to go for what they want and we need to build themselves whatever they want to build. So I admire women with ambition and who wants to create better lives for themselves and who wants to enrich their careers or whatever the case may be. But there's never a reason to have to step on a man to get where you want to be. Never. There's never a reason to use the threat of falsely accusing a man of sexual harassment as ammunition to get what you want. That is disgusting behavior. It's gross, disgusting behavior. And we're going to go through this whole document and the evidence that we've seen so far. And that is exactly what she did. That is exactly what she did. And people and bots and stuff can continue to say things to me in the comment section. It does upset me, I'm not going to lie, but just look at the documents. Just look at the facts. He's horrible. And so is Ryan. They are both horrible people. But we'll get to all that. I'm not going to inject too much of my own opinions in this next couple of videos. Let's just go through Justin Baldoni's lawsuit. And then we'll get into the opinions and some of the things that happened since. But for now, that is it for today's episode. Please remember to subscribe, comment down below. It helps. The more people comment, the more, it boosts the video or whatnot, like all that things. And then I'll see you in the next episode. Thank you for coming, and I'll see you next time. Marat. Bye-bye.